All right, a very good morning to you. Happy new month. I know, yes, it is actually the 8th day of the new month, but it's actually good to see you on this Monday morning. I hope that you've had a better start to the day. Welcome to the show. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and of course today we want to talk about, again, something that we all should be talking about, and that is mental health, and especially in work spaces. We have so much to go through, so of course let's just begin with the basics, right? And of course, like we all know, mental health is critically important to everyone, everywhere. And according to the World Health Organization, almost 60% of the world population is in work, meaning mental health needs are high. However, responses are insufficient and inadequate. So as we mark the Mental Health Awareness Month, what exactly does this look in workplaces? So that is the subject of our conversation today. And of course, again, let's see what the numbers say. And according to a report by the World Health Organization, and this is the World Mental Health report, again, in conjunction with ILO, right? So it says that mental health is a basic human right for all people, all right? That we can agree on. But again, like we said, almost 60% of the world population is in workspaces. And of course, we can all agree that we spend majority of our times in the workspaces. So 15% of working age adults were estimated to have a mental disorder, and this is in 2019, all right? And globally, an estimated 15 billion working days are lost every year to depression and anxiety at a cost of $1 trillion per year, and this is lost in productivity. So something that, we all should be concerned about, right? So some of the risks to mental health, at work includes, and not again limited to, underuse of skills or being underskilled for work, excessive workloads, or work pace, or understaffing as well. We have long unsocial or inflexible hours, unsafe or poor physical working conditions, organizational culture that enables negative behavior. And of course, we'll also focus a little bit on the same. We have a HR specialist in the building who will tell us more on the same. And of course, we'll also have cases of violence, harassment, or bullying. This is not new. We've had a lot of cases on the same. Discrimination as well is something that a lot of people struggle with. So discrimination and exclusion in workspaces also contribute to mental health disorders. Unclear job role, all right? Again, we have a HR, like I said, who will also help us really understand how this also can contribute to cases of mental health. We also have job insecurity, inadequate pay, or poor investment in career development. And of course, last but not least, we have conflicting home and work demands. And I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of people say, work-life balance. Yes, that is what, again, we'll be focusing on and seeing how this contributes to, mental health disorders. But even understanding this, and like we said, this is not just, some of the contributors to, mental health disorders in workplaces. There's so many other things which we'll be going through. So we have a very simple question for you today, okay? And the question is, do you, as an individual, do you feel supported? That is mentally at work. Once again, do you feel mentally supported at work? It's very simple on how you can reach us. And of course, it is at NTV Kenya, and this is both on Facebook and on Twitter. Send us your feedback and tell us how you feel about this whole question on, mental health, and especially in workspaces. Do you feel supported or not? And what exactly does support look like, all right, in your own definition? So at NTV Kenya, like I said, both on Facebook and on Twitter is how you can reach us. But if you want to call in live, our lines are open, and share your story, share your experience, share your journey, really, as far as how you are doing mentally. And this is as far as workspaces are concerned. So before I introduce my guest, I can see a number of you have a lot to say as far as the question, all right? Someone says, this is Gerald Kip Kosgei on Facebook, who says, I was mentally good until I heard of heavy taxation. Hapo sasa nikawa mentally, emotionally, physically challenged. All right? And then someone else says, this is Malenga Jimmy, says 100% yes. Since my members and leaders are all around speaking, giving and praying together, we always have periods of discussion, basically on issues both about work and those of family. We are more than family. Payments and services are fine. Personally, mental support is okay. I like that. All right. So again, keep sharing your views, your feedback, and of course we'll be going through them as we continue with the conversation. But for now, my guests are already here. Perfect persons to have this conversation. Of course, on my immediate left, we have Reynold Awor, who is a senior HR consultant and career coach. So good to have you this morning. And I feel like saying Happy New Year because I saw you last year, and the year is almost coming to, you know, we're literally a few days away shy before we come to the middle of the, you know, halfway throughout the year. But it's so good to see you again.
Thank you
Karibu
so
sana. Thank you so much for making time for us. And of course, we also have Jen Waithera, who's a counseling psychologist. She's not new. I mean, both of you are not really. Jen, Karibu sana. So good to see you again. You know, again, perfect person to really, you know, help us discuss this, because majority of the times, and I'm pretty sure you've had a lot of people say, I don't know if I'm stressed. Right? And someone else was actually saying people who are stressed don't even know that they're stressed. You ask them, how are you doing? And they'll tell you, I'm okay. Everything is okay. But really, if you look keenly, you will discover that they are not okay. So there's so much to go through. So let me just start with you, Jen, really, the psychologist in the room. Mental health, you know, what exactly does that look like? Is it different in different aspects of our lives, you know, like home, family, you know, workspaces, you know, and everything else? Is it different, or mental health is just mental health? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so thank you, Winnie, and thank you for having me here. Mental health actually should cut across, whether at home, at the workplace, and everywhere else. And it is important to also know that mental health is as good as the physical health. So you will not be saying that you're having your physical health is actually deteriorating. That will actually sometimes equals to or amount to some mental health issues. So mental health actually looks like a person not being settled mentally, and you are disrupted. Your life is actually disrupted by what is happening around you. And you see, once it affects your mental health, then that means you cannot be functional at all. So when we talk about maybe even issues to do with mental health at the workplace, they are very, very important. And you actually say that one of the risk factors for the mental health at work will actually include some of the conflicting issues even at home. Meaning, if you come from home with some issues that are actually disturbing you mentally, you might not pull through work.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, but listen, Reynolds, they say once you enter the gate, your job, all your issues, you leave them at home. But sometimes you can't, right? Because again, like Jen says, if you're not okay, of course, that will also affect your delivery, you know, at work. But really, when we talk about the workspaces and given the statistics and, you know, what the numbers say and how ideally, you know, a good environment should look like, let's just understand this from a HR perspective. What does like a healthy workspace look like? Because like you said, we spend majority of the time, you know, in workspaces.
Yeah, that's true. And one thing that I would say that's really a good indicator of a safe work environment is, one, when employees are engaged. So when you find that your employees are very engaged, they are very plugged into whatever work that they've been assigned, even out of work things, that's a very good indicator that you're in a safe environment. Number two, high levels of trust. When your employees can be able to be vulnerable around you, they can be able to communicate, and they're not afraid of backlash if they share something personal, that's also a very good indicator of or a healthy environment. So I would say, number one, that the main thing is psychological safety. When the employees are feel very secure and safe in the environment, and they're able to be productive, they're very engaged, they're able to communicate, and they're open with their employers, that's a very, very good work environment.
I'm just curious, how do you then get that? Because talk to so many employees, they'll tell you, hey, me HR no more, and I'm like, hi, you know, and then you go your way. Your boss is your boss. You know, there's really some people do not have that, you know, one-on-one interaction, you know, with their bosses. And sometimes you could understand there's a question of respect, but there's also a question of that one, you know, when they call you, you know you're in trouble, you know. So then how do you inculcate that, you know, so that you create, you know, that healthy, safe work environment, so, you know, that, you know, people can come and talk to you at any given point with any issue and still feel safe that their issues are heard. But Jade, so then, because in a workspace, ideally, it's different people, different, you know, backgrounds, different races, you know, in some, like, it's just different, right? For everybody. So then how do we, yes, in as much as we expect to have that safe, healthy environment, but also what role do, you know, the staff, employees, you know, play in terms of creating then this safe space so that we do not just rely on the leadership, you know, to create that safe environment for us, given that we're all different.
Ah, nice. Good question. Now, of course, the employees have a responsibility of ensuring that they are also okay, like mentally. So they could probably also have some peer supervision groups, in terms of you want to talk about what it is that you're going through at the workplace as a team, you know. And when you talk as a team, it will be important for you to probably also communicate the same to the HR or to the management or to whoever is the team leader. And I like what you say, that that space needs to be created by the HR or the team,
the
you know,
yes.
because then people can see other staffs down having probably a talk. They're actually supporting themselves and think that probably they want to overthrow or you know there should be that psychological kind of a thing that enables people at the workplace to be able to actually even express themselves without being judged and without being taken personally, because you may want to probably give your opinion about something at the workplace, but it's not going to be taken, and if it is taken, it is not going to be taken kindly. So it is important for actually the HR and the team players, probably the team leaders, to also have this kind of an awareness. And how to do that is probably also in engaging into maybe some trainings that are psychological, just for them to be able to understand their team, so that they are able to actually even help them. Remember, we are saying that these people are not different from the ones at home. So they'll come in with baggage, they'll come in with their losses, with their issues. Someone has just said that they were okay until the issues of taxes came. So you don't know how many others are struggling with the same. And they will actually bring in that at the workplace. So how emotional intelligent is the management? How emotional intelligent are the team leaders to be able to understand and pick this, so that it is not taken personally, like you do not want to work? And remember also, some of these people, when employees come with their mental health issues, it's actually, it can be elevated by the workplace, but it should also be a place where when the employees come and they have their own mental issues, they're able to calm down and they're able to be understood. And we also say that this is where we are most of the time. We are at our workplaces more than we are at home. So this actually should be like the family, you know. So and the HR should be able to propagate that. Yes,
I see that. Of course, Reno will be telling us how then you know that is achieved. But what are some of the mental health conditions, disorders that's usually reported, especially in workspaces?
Yeah, so in work environments, usually there are three. So high stress, anxiety, and depression. Those are the conditions that employees really struggle with. So you find that you're coming to work, you're very stressed, and you've been so used to being on flight or fight mode that you don't even realize that you're in that mode. You're not able to think clearly. You feel very agitated, disengaged. You'll find that when you're requested of something, you don't want to immediately jump and do it. So those three illnesses, I would say, are the most common within the work environment. So high stress, anxiety, where you're always feeling like you're in panic, depression, you're disengaged, you don't feel like you enjoy your work anymore. And sometimes this even leads to absenteeism, and sometimes you find that people are not even able to grow in their career because they're always feeling like there's something that's holding them back.
Absolutely. I mean, you've alluded to some of the things that I wanted Jen to point out in terms of like what exactly does that look like. If we say someone is stressed, someone sort of like depressed, someone is struggling with anxiety, what exactly does that look like? Because majority of the times and especially when someone is going through something, and the way they say separate work and life, but at the same time you're not able to because you're still the same, right? And you're still the same person. So then how do you tell? Because some people say, hey, we are on a very bad mood today, just leave them, instead of reaching out and trying to get to understand, are you okay? Is everything okay? Is there, anything that I can do to help? But really, so what exactly does that look like? I mean, Reynolds said Zentism, high level stress, but really, what are some of these other symptoms that, we should really be on the lookout for?
So some of the other issues that probably the employees would actually present are actually even high turnovers. you know. When they feel that they can't take it anymore, they'll just leave without a reason.
Okay.
So someone at the HR, with all these turnovers, should actually be able to ask themselves, so what is happening?
Exactly is happening?
So that then they are able to understand. Are there maybe psychological issues for the employees that we are not able to probably take care of or address? What is it that is making it should actually be a sort of a wake-up call? And then like he said, you will understand that when people are stressed, they're actually not productive.
Yeah.
They're not productive at all, because someone will come and now they'll be thinking about what is happening in their lives and what is happening at their workplace. So they have brought in issues where they are actually coming and kind of calling home, because this is where they are most of the time. Nobody understands them, so they feel like they are not loved, they are not appreciated, and actually you will also find that some of these people will actually even commit suicide. I mean, it becomes so bad until they see there is no one who understands them. There is no understanding at home, there is no understanding at the workplace. So the best thing they can do, they find that the world is too small for them to fit in, and they want to like die by suicide. So those are some of the issues that probably the managers or the team leaders should actually be able to pick. And like you said, you know, if someone is down, check on them. Just don't take it like ataki kuongea leo.
Akona moods.
Akona mood. You know?
You never know what someone. You never know what someone is struggling with.
You actually should be sensitive and be able to understand. You never know what someone is going through. You never know. You can only talk about where you are coming from. You don't know where this person is coming from. You know, and just being sensitive and being able to come to the shoes of the employees to be able to understand what is it that they are going through and what support can you be able to give to increase productivity.
Absolutely. And then there's some places where the pressure is just too much. You know, like the environment itself, not that you expected of, you know, too much, you know, unrealistic expectations from your leaders and all those things. It's just that the nature of the job in itself is very intense, you know, that sometimes the pressure is just too much for people to handle. So then in such instances, because I know there's some people who might struggle with you know, mental health disorders away from the workspaces, but there's some that are caused from, you know, the work environment in itself. So talking about the nature of the job and understanding you know, the nature of the job and how this can predispose someone you know, to mental health disorders, what is it that you would like the people to know? Because most of the time it's the HR who always gets the you know, the fault almost all the time. So then how important is it for people to really, first of all, understand what is expected of them, you know, and the nature of the job, and then how that helps to sort of like manage?
And you, even in your introduction, you sort of alluded to this. So what are some of those factors that contribute to an unhealthy work environment? And one of them is an unclear job description. So a clear job description outlines what you need to do at what point of time, what are your KPIs, what are the performance indicators at the end of either a quarter or biannually or annually. And it's very easy for you to plan yourself when you know this is what is expected of me. Number two, it's very important for us to have that psychological safety that I identified initially. So you need to be able to feel comfortable as an employee, being able to reach out to your manager and tell them, I'm currently struggling with XYZ. I might need either further training or support with a colleague. And also number three, being able to manage yourself. So managing yourself in terms of, do you understand what is required of you, and do you have the toolkits that you need? Do you have the training necessary? Do you have the education? And not just being a yes man or woman. Like, don't just say yes to everything without understanding what that what implications that will have on your workload and on your delivery of the timeline as well.
All right. I mean, listen, there's that pressure to what is it called? unafanya kazi, okay? And this whole question about yes, because you want to impress your boss, right? At the end of the day. So some people would struggle with this. They might not really understand, first of all, the nature of the job and what is expected of them, but really because they want to impress, you know, you end up saying yes, even to, you know, some instances where you're not comfortable with the same. So then what exactly does this do, you know, to you as an individual, which we'll be going through, you know, as we continue with the conversation. So Jen, there's some people who just, you know, number one, are not only predisposed, but struggle with the same. And the biggest question is, do I disclose or do I not disclose? And Veniel, you'll also answer this. But if you're struggling with, you know, mental health disorder of any sort, do you disclose or do you not disclose?
well, it's a tricky situation because again, you may disclose and then you find that information with everyone else in the organization. But if whoever is in charge of you, they are actually able to pick, and it would come out better if they are the ones who initiated this. Like, I see you struggling with ABCD, so how important would be my help to you? That is very key. And then as you do that, it will be prudent also to also have a conversation around it, so that then you are understood and you also feel like you are also being taken care of. You can have like flexi hours. You know, you can talk with the office and have some flexibility. Like you know, sometimes they say if someone has a mental issue, it is usually was during rainy seasons and things like those. So is it okay for this person to report at work maybe at 10 o'clock? And maybe leave at 8, whatever, you know, some understanding, flexi hours for the employees who probably seem to be struggling with mental issues. And then also allowing them to go maybe for hospital appointments. You know, probably they need to see a doctor, probably it is this morning that they wake up and they call you, they tell you, I want to see a doctor, allow. You know, probably not without even asking them, bring me the card, let me like ascertain that you are really at the hospital, you know. So having to give them that understanding. And remember, we are saying all people need at the workplace is some understanding, because this person could actually be struggling. Yes, we are saying maybe there are also non-mental cases, you know, mental health issues, and you would want that this person also continues to you know, they need a livelihood. Work is a livelihood. They need this job. So do not have this issue of having to like oppress them. Allow them, have flexible hours for them to work. If they need to see a doctor, it's okay. Let them go and access the doctor. You know, just give that understanding that you would probably also want to be given at some point. I want to say that when you were talking about the work environment that probably will predispose someone to mental health, it is very, very important, and especially for the armed forces, issues to do with maybe the police and everything. They actually go through a lot, and they need a lot of mental health support. You know, in terms of having to say, for example, they could be actually at their workplaces, then something happens, maybe there's an explosion and all those kind of things, and they really need support. But you know, there's that aspect of people believing that we need police, you know.
I mean, they went through tough training.
Exactly.
They're tough.
They're tough. No one is tough when it comes to issues of emotions. I mean, they're human beings, and they will also need this kind of support. So you find that most of these people are actually predisposed. They are the ones with depression. They're the ones with high-level stresses. They are on the front line where everyone is being killed or they are killing people. They're actually the ones even who are at the front, like facing the wakoras and everything, you know, that kind of a thing. And that actually predisposes them to a lot of stress. So that way, it is important for even other organizations and other you know, workplaces to embrace issues of psychology, you know, psychological support, mental health support, and that kind of a thing. Very, very important.
And of course, we'll go through then what exactly does that kind of support look like, and especially in work environments, because again, like we said, it's important for people to seek help. There's a lot of stigma surrounding mental health. You know, majority of the times people would discriminate and, you know, call sorts of names and all those things. You're weak, you're not able to handle things, you know, the first person. It's just a lot, all right? So then what exactly does support look like? But during the interview, suppose I have like a mental health condition or disorder, for example, you know, depression, like we talked about, which is mostly common, you know, in work environments. Someone who's struggling with bipolar. During the interview, right, before I even get the job, do you disclose or do you not disclose?
That's a very good question.
Yeah.
And as Jen had mentioned, it's a very sensitive topic, because you don't know what training that someone has, and you don't know how it will be received by the panel. So I would say gauge how the panel is and identify one person from the panel who you can have that conversation with. You can request for, can I have 5 minutes? I'd just like to ask 1 or 2 questions, but it is possible to have that discussion one-on-one, particularly if the hiring manager, the person who you'll be reporting to, is there. Or if the initial conversation is with this one person, have that open and honest conversation. Like, ask them, what's the culture like? How do you support your team to grow? If someone has an issue, where do they go? If someone is struggling with something at home. So ask those questions and get to hear what they say, so that you can be able to make a judgment call. So don't go ahead and
usually
talk
say
about
openness,
it. Yes, openness, but cautiously. Cautiously. Like, try and dig into what's the culture of this organization, how do they deal with employees who are struggling, and you don't even have to talk about the specific illness, but just you can even put it broadly, like how do you help people deal with stress management? Do you have any programs within the organization that help even with resilience training and awareness and stuff like that? And when you hear some things that like help you see that this is a safe environment, that just mentioned, you know, in the spirit of openness and fairness, I just like to disclose it's something that I deal with. However, I'm on medication, I manage myself really well, it does not affect my job. I have references of former managers who have worked with who can be able to attest that this does not interfere with my work. So I would say tease it out, find out what's the culture of the organization first, and then when you're talking about it, don't just mention what it is, but mention how you manage it and how it does not affect your work.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a break, but of course when we come back, we'd also to understand more on the work culture and how that also contributes to some level of mental health conditions and disorder. And remember, we talked about the whole question about support, either from your immediate co-workers or from the leadership. But generally also the work environment and the leadership also allowing their employees to also seek help. So of course that we'll be discussing after the break. We talked about a whole question about discrimination, exclusion, talked about unclear job descriptions as well, and how that contributes to mental health disorders and all those things. So like we said, if you have a story, if you have an experience to share, feel free to also do so at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, or better yet, give us a call. The lines are open, and let's get to understand how best we can support each other, because like we said, workplaces is where we spend majority of the time. So I'll also be going through your feedback after the break. Stay with us. This is Your World.
All transactions with DTB are secure. Achieving more for you is the least we can do. Because at Diamond Trust Bank, you don't just bank with us, you bank on us.
It's the headquarters of good vibes. So I should just kneel and begin to call on Jesus because I'm a
You know, Dr. Kingori, yes, you sound like a street fighter. Where did you grab it? Unataka noma.
Kingori, let me tell you something. Mimi mtu angenipata saa hiyo nikiwa first year, angeangukia bibi mzuri.
You know, they always say smart women, where to catch them is with love.
Kingori, I love how your suit looks. I love you in a suit. I love you in a t-shirt.
As in any example, ama you actually mean that? Maifungua akili ya msee ama kichwa ya msee ukapata vile watu husema huyu jamaa ana akili.
Tunaweza toa nyama kwa huko nyuma tuweke kwa
kifua. Yesi mtu anakuwa na roho chafu sana. Na ukidive inahesabiwa?
Si ndio, ukiwin, udive win, si umewin.
Hiyo ndio tizi unafaa upige. Napiganga tu tizi ya 90 meters ya kwanza, alafu nikifika 90 meters na fly. Every Friday on NTV 7:30 p.m.
I came in, she pulled out the gun and said if she can't have me, nobody can. What do I do?
It's your fault that my marriage is falling apart.
Diana.
Get out of here! Get out of here now! Get out!
What this woman needs from you is simply your attention. Give her that, and you'll see she'll stop acting so stupid!
Andres? Don't tell me the cab stand I called sent you to pick me up.
Quite a coincidence. Natalia. Head over heels.
Santon, a fun new world of flavor. Fruity see freshness in every sip.
Pata taarifa teke teke na e-paper. Stay in the know on the go. Getting the full story Bilangori. To sign up, choose your preferred subscription. Use the promo code SUBZ22 to get 20% off and pay. Get your favorite newspaper and enjoy the truth anywhere, anytime. For inquiries, email epaper@ke.nationmedia.com or call 0790 111 111. Subscribe today and get your taarifa teke teke.
Own your dream home for as low as 1.98 million Kenya shillings in Vipingo Kilifi. SMS Vipingo to 22365 or call us today on 0740 400 215. Terms and conditions apply.
Right, welcome back. And I mean, listen, of course the conversation continues even during the break, and of course it's all about mental health in workplaces. And like we said, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and of course we hope to have again a series the whole month and just talk about mental health, because we cannot overemphasize how important our mental health is, again the same way as our physical health. So today we wanted to start with the workplaces, because we spend majority of the times in the workplaces. So then how do we make sure that we're okay, we're able to deliver, and in the event that you're struggling with one thing or the other, you can openly voice it out and seek help. But then again, how then do we have that environment where people can be okay to share what they are going through, and especially when it comes to their mental health. So of course with us today is Jen Waithera, counseling psychologist, as well as Reynold Owuor, who's a senior HR consultant and career coach. So Jen, very quickly, I mean, we were talking about disclose or do not disclose, and again, we got really good insights on the same from both of you. But then again, so how do you deal, and especially this is for a person who is struggling, with an existing mental health condition. For example, talking about bipolar depression and all these other conditions, right? And in an environment where, of course, it's stressful, right? You already have this condition. So then how do you manage, and how can HR and leadership really just help this person to manage and still be able to deliver without necessarily discriminating and saying we are nakwanga depressed almost all the time, right? So first of all, how do you make sure that you're able to manage the same, but at the same time the leadership in terms of helping the person?
Okay, thank you. For the person, is just having to do your best.
Okay.
Like you put in what you have to put in terms of maybe hours. And for the maybe the HR, there could be some reasonable accommodations.
Okay.
Like I had mentioned about being given extra, like flexible hours.
Okay.
You can also talk about giving in some extra hours. If a task is to be completed by maybe today,
okay.
And you could probably see that this person is struggling with it, so give them some extra hours to be able to complete whatever task. Then the other issue is actually a return to work kind of a program. So if this person was out maybe on a sick leave, this person had gone to see the doctor. Probably sometimes they even require admission. So when they come back to work, have some also reasonable understanding, and being able to ensure that they are actually back to work and on track. Have a support system at the workplace. The colleagues could also come in. You could be doing the same task, but tag them with a person who is probably not effective, but someone who is not struggling with a mental issue. So then at the end of the day, this person is going to be supported and will come out successively. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And especially when we talk about then the leadership, I mean, this whole lot of conversation, I think online, if I'm not wrong, sometime last year, where HR was sort of like seem to be among the people who contribute largely to some of these people dealing with mental health conditions, or causing the same. And this is because of a lot of things. Some people are talking about discrimination, or unfair treatment, in workplaces, either from the HR or from the leadership and all those things. So then, what role does a HR play, and especially when it comes to promoting I would say, yeah, mental health, healthy work environment, for example, you know, and because again, we understand that we're dealing with a lot of people, you know, in this space, but at the same time, you know, just help in promoting mental health, and especially in workspaces. What role do, you know, the HR play? Yes.
Yeah, I'd actually like to broaden it to not only the HR but also the senior management team. So allow me to speak to the employers as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, I would say there are 4 things that are very, very crucial for you to do. One is educating your senior management team. So does your management team understand the implications of the policies that you have on their workforce? Yeah. Do they know what the Employment Act of Kenya talks about when it comes to providing a safe environment? Yeah. Do they understand what are some of the resources that they can be able to use to understand how can we manage or work with our employees really well? You know, there's very many online resources. There's the ILO Convention of Occupational Safety and Health and Mental Health. There's a WHO strategy on health in the workplace and mental health as well. And even in Kenya recently, they launched the Mental Health Policy 2015 to 2016. So how are we educating our senior management team to understand what does the law say when it comes to mental health in the workplace, and how can we be able to empower our team to be knowledgeable on the same? Yeah. So number one is like the management team and HR knowing what is the policy and what are we actually doing. Number 2 is the culture. Yeah. What culture what culture are you promoting? Yeah. And when you talk about culture, it's like the things you said, like when people see HR, they're like, oh my goodness.
You got to impress HR. It's like, hi, you look good today.
Yeah, like, whenever I see
and it's okay. But
so like, let's change the narrative. Yeah. So whenever someone is don't only have HR going to people when it's disciplinary. You know, when people are also performing really well. You know, like let them be able to see HR as wholesome. Yeah. So when you're doing well, like the HR manager can come and tell you, I see the amount of work you're doing, and your performance review is going to be really good because you're doing great job. So that whenever they're seeing the HR manager or like you're someone in management, you're not panicking. You know, because you've only seen them when it's a disciplinary
when you're in trouble.
And creating that psychological safety as well, where open communication without feeling that whatever I disclose will be used against me. Yeah. And I have that conversation with my team regularly where I give them an opportunity to tell me, when you're having a good day or a bad day, let me know. If you feel like you have a lot of workload, let me know so that I know how to resource some of this work. And they know there's that open level of communication that they can have with me. So that's number 2, culture. Number 3 is the employee assistance programs. Yeah. So what programs and what policies and structures are in place? You know, for example, does your health insurance cover mental health? Do you have a counseling psychologist who comes to speak to your employees on a regular basis? It could be biannually, quarterly, depending on your flexibility as an organization, you know. And do you also have to, and number 4 is now the training and education. Are you training your staff? Are you training your managers to know how to deal with someone who's going through something? Because sometimes they don't know, you know, like as a manager, someone tells me, oh, I have bipolar, and I panic. Because as a manager, I don't know, like I hear mental health and I was like, oh my goodness, what's this, you know? And you don't realize that mental health is similar to physical health. You just need to be able to manage it. So I'd say those 4 things are very, very crucial for HR and anyone in leadership to take care of. So are you educating your senior management team for them to understand how to manage their staff and provide a safe working environment? What's the culture? How do you address issues when they come up? You know, are people feeling secure and safe enough to talk about issues in the workplace? Number 3, do you have employee assistance programs? In my organization currently, we have a mental health week where the entire organization shuts down and you take a whole break and you're able to like not think about work, and no one is going to call you, no one is going to reach out, and and it's known every year we do it, you know, like, so do you have those programs? Google has resilience trainings. Resilience is a skill. So do you train your employees on the same? Number 4 is the training and education for managers specifically, so middle managers and also senior management as well.
And earlier on, Jen, you talked about emotional intelligence and again how this is important, especially in workplaces, right? But again, most of the time we usually forget that you know, HR you know, and the leadership as well, at the end of the day, they're human beings. And yes, in as much as you want them to understand that you dealing with a lot of issues maybe at home, you know, or here and there, they are also struggling with their own issues, right? So then when it comes to then on a managerial level and just making sure that first of all you are okay, so that you're able to also lead your team, you know, again, so that we all promote a healthy working environment. So then what exactly does this say to the leadership and in terms of managing and handling, you know, their own issues or mental health, you know, issues? Is someone struggling with mental health disorders, well, they're able to manage it so that we do not have that trickle down to the rest of the employees?
I think you really, I think you had mentioned earlier on that some of these issues, even at the workplaces, are because of the HRs.
That's true.
You know, it's because they also have their own baggage. So when you talk about the wellness of everyone in the organization, talking about the trainings and actually even the psychological trainings for the managers specifically, just for them to also know how to deal with their own selves. Because like you're saying, if a manager has an issue or if the team leader has an issue, it will trickle down if it is not managed well. So these awareness sessions at their level, for them to be able to understand that I also could be having issues as a manager that I'm dealing with that are probably also affecting my my people or my team that I'm dealing with. So it is very, very important and crucial for probably organizations and companies to be able to understand that even as we talk about mental health, there's also mental health at the top management level, where they also need to also have this awareness so that they can also be able to give it down. You know, remember, you can only give what you have.
What you have, that's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
So if for lack of a better word, if the management or people leading are toxic, then that toxicity will come down, all the way, and then there will be no understanding. Then it will lead to these mental health issues, you know, like upgrading, and it's just going to be chaotic. So like he says, mental health should be for everyone. The top management, the level at the middle, and even down up to the person maybe who is the lowest in the organization. You know, let's have those conversations moving on. Let's have the trainings and the awareness sessions for the managers. Let them understand that it could also be about you and not about the team, you know, and not about the person. So then once they're able to deal with that at the management level or at the level they are at the team players, the team leaders, once they're able to handle that at their level, then it becomes a good working environment.
Absolutely. I mean, and we also understand it cannot be perfect because, again, like we said, we're dealing with a lot of people, you know, different backgrounds, different values, different, you know, it's just a whole different, you know, group of people coming together for, you know, a common goal, and that is to build an organization and, you know, and all those things. So then the question is, how often should people seek help? You know, and when I'm asking this, a lot of people would wait until something is wrong for them to, you know, seek counseling, for example, or just find someone to talk to and say, hey, this is where I am at, I'm not too sure about this, I'm struggling with anxiety and all those things. So should we wait until something happens so that we seek help? Or how often then, Jane, should people just talk? For example, you know, Reynolds said, you know, in your organization you do that a lot.
Of course, when it gets overwhelming, it's time to look for help. Like for instance, if at the workplace people are starting to they're not just understanding each other, it's actually time to start internalizing. And in a well-structured organization, the ideal probably would be that there's counseling psychologists in the organization, and they can actually be able to pick that. Now, they know now this is time for us to slow down, probably take a break, and that kind of a thing. So when things have started to not, you know, like make sense in the organization, it's time actually to be able to look for that. And it is very, very important. I'm glad that most organizations are actually embracing issues of psychosocial support, and they're having counselors who probably you can actually check in the morning with the counselor and get to understand where are we at, and that kind of a thing. That helps a lot. So that then if the organizations are able to take up the issue of, or the role of psychologists in the organization, that becomes a plus for them. So that they can actually be able to pick and say, now this is time to slow down, so it should be as often as possible.
And of course the big question would be, so then how do you know, and especially when it comes to the team, how do you know, you know, that the people are overwhelmed? How do you know that the people are stressed? Because again, remember, like we said, there's the whole question about deliverables, but there's also this other side that you're human, right? And you feel overwhelmed, you feel stressed, you feel, you know, all those things. So then from a managerial, you know, position and all those things, how then are you able to pick and say, hey, Appa, clearly there's something? What are some of those things that you're able to pick and say, you know what, maybe it's time for us to just have a dialogue as a team?
Number one is understanding your employee or like your team member. So if this is someone who's been delivering above and beyond always, like this is someone who's always on time, their workload is always impeccable, and then something changes, you realize they're disengaged, they don't raise their hand when they're asked for something, they're absentee, they're taking a lot of leave days, and even when they're there, they're not really there. Like you can tell that this person is not really the person that I knew. Then you know it's time to have a conversation. You know, that's different from a performance issue where you see this person has anyway not been performing, and even when they struggle with something, it's very hard for you to empathize. But if this is an employee who has been 100, like they've been there 100% of the time doing the best, you realize that dip, and then it's time to have a conversation. And how I usually phrase it is that start with the good. Start with the positives, like you know, you're an amazing team member, you always deliver on time, your workload is always impeccable, your attention to detail, and currently I'm seeing the bits that like things are slipping through, like you send things late, or I notice that even when we ask people to volunteer, you don't really jump the way you used to before. So is there anything happening? Do you want us to have a conversation? I'm like, and the conversation we're having right now is confidential, it stays between you and me. And that's when you find people are able to open up, because even myself, when I was starting out, I used to struggle to balance like work and life. Like I would let things that are happening in my personal life interfere with work. You know? And my manager just sat me down and was like, Ray, I see something is amiss. Like what's going on? Like let's have a conversation. And through that, I was able to get like 3 days. She gave me a whole week. She's like, you know what? Take the week off next week and be able to like de-stress, do whatever you need to do to be able to come back as the Reynold that I know. And having those conversations is very, very important.
Absolutely. I mean, ideally,
and also maybe having some debrief sessions.
Right? Yes. But then again, there's some people who are even scared to point that out because they're like, this might be used against me. So then this whole question about trust and trusting that whatever you say, you know, remains confidential. Because like, again, and Jen, you pointed this out and said, sometimes you might think that you're talking to, you know, your team leader or the HR or, you know, anyone that you can trust in the company, but hey, 2 days later, everyone in the company knows what exactly you're dealing with. So then how do you know, gain that trust, and especially from the employers, you know, or the team members, or, you know, anyone like that, so that it's not like you're imposing your powers all the time, but people can trust you with information. How do you, you know, build that, and especially from a managerial position?
Yeah, I guess it would be nice to walk the talk. If you have had a conversation with an employee and you're saying that this is going to be confidential,
please ensure that it remains confidential.
Yes, because this is how the employees will build confidence on you. Because then if they don't hear that tomorrow or the other day, then they'll probably be able to trust you. But it could also be that you have told another person this and told them do not tell her or do not let the person know. So that person that you have told already know that I can't trust you. Because this is going to be the same. Like I will tell you something, we'll go tell Winnie and tell Winnie not to tell anyone.
And then Winnie goes and tells Reynold and do not tell anyone. Before you know it, everybody's not telling anyone, but everybody knows.
That's exactly what you're saying. So just walking the talk. If you are at that position where you can be trusted with information, and this information can actually is not able to come out. So that's how you will gain the confidence in the employees and anybody else who is actually looking at you to be able to help.
Absolutely. Yes. I see that. So then, Reynold, when it comes to culture and allowing, you know, the people in the workplaces, doesn't matter whether you're the boss or you know, you are the employee, that open door policy, and we usually talk about this, but sometimes the open door policy is not the open door policy. You know, so then having that interaction with the, you know, with one another, understanding the culture of the workspaces, you know, that you're in, but at the same time some bit of boundary, you know, and respect, because there's some people who might take it too far and forget that at the end of the day, you're either dealing with your boss or you're dealing with, you know, your fellow employee, you know, or your coworker, that you tend to, you know, overlook the boundaries. So then in terms of understanding the boundaries and how important, you know, this is where you can come. Yeah, and all those things. How do we build that in a workspace and voice it out without, you know, the fear of being judged or discriminated against?
Yeah, I would say that one usually top down. It starts from leadership and coming down. Yeah. So the leadership needs to be able to have this conversation during performance reviews and having those open conversations around this is what you should do when you feel that you're stressed. This is what you should do when you feel that things are becoming a lot. This is what you should do when you feel that we've given you a lot of workload or you don't have clarity in terms of your job description. And then with you as the employee, you need to understand that these are your employers. They're not your therapists or your counseling psychologists. So in as much as you are going to disclose something, you need to understand that it's not their responsibility to help you get better. That entirely lies with you. Yeah, and managing yourself is very, very important. Yeah, so highlighting that this is what you're going through without going into much depth is important, but also realize that getting better is your responsibility and trying to understand that what are the resources that I need. Do I need to take time off to go for therapy? Do I need just to take time off from workload, or do I need to ask for some of my colleagues to support me on some of the work because the workload is the one that's causing me stress, causing me anxiety? Or do I need to have a conversation with my manager if my manager is the one who is contributing to this, and how do I even broach that subject? So self-management allows you to be able to identify what's the actual cause and how can I be able to address it. While remembering it's entirely your responsibility.
Absolutely. I mean, because again, sometimes people tend to forget, like, I told you my problems.
Exactly.
You know, and all those things. So it's entirely
and something also
up to you.
I'd like to add is when you also highlight it, come with a solution. Don't also make it like the responsibility of the HR manager or your manager to start thinking, okay, how can I help? You know, it's like, this is what I'm going through and this is what I need.
I mean, we were talking about this during the break, the whole question about liability, you know, and people do not want to be seen as, you know, a liability to the organization. So they would tend to, you know, hide whatever it is that they're going through. But at the end of the day, that will also be seen, you know, in terms of their deliverables and all those things. So, you know, finding a way to voice it out, but also seek help and work on yourself.
Exactly.
But Jen, are there instances where it's okay to walk away? All right, and especially if the work environment is toxic, and you're trying to find a way to, you know, find solutions and all those things, but nothing is happening. When do you know that it's time to walk away from either a work environment or from a boss or from a co-worker, you know, whatever it is? When is it time to walk away?
Wow. When you can't take it anymore.
Okay.
You know, like when it is just too much, you have tried maybe the self-management strategies, and it is still getting toxic, it is still getting worse, you know, and it actually has an impact on your mental health. It's actually time to just say, okay, I really need this job, but there isn't much I can be able to do. And if it is actually costing you like a lot, it's not worth it. Whatever causes you your mental peace, it's not worth it.
Okay.
Simply that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Of course, there's the question of walking away, but also what are you doing, you know, on yourself? Because like Reynolds says, it's up to you to make sure that you get better. Because you might walk away from this environment and then go to another, and, you know, the pressure is still the same or even worse, right?
I've mentioned about the self-management. As a person, you have actually tried. You have probably even gone for therapy to talk about this issue, you know, like to even deal with it. It's still getting worse. The person probably doesn't even understand and doesn't, like we said, most of them will be ignorant. They don't even know what they're dealing with. And so it still continues to get worse for you. It continues to get worse for you. If you have done your best, you've really done your best, you've done your part, then sometimes people just have to walk away.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's okay to walk away. All right. So we absolutely need to end the conversation like right now. So Reynolds, in terms of then understanding, because again, like we said, this is a right, like, you know, mental health, you know, this is like a basic right for everybody. You know, making sure that, you know, you are okay. But at the same time, people might not necessarily understand this, and especially when it comes to their workspaces. So allow me to take this as your parting shot. What is it? What are some of the things that people need to understand that this is your right, especially when it comes to your mental health in workspaces? Very quickly, like 45 seconds?
Okay. I'll try and do it in 30.
Okay, okay, all right.
So number one, I'd say there are three stakeholders that need to be part of this conversation. So the employer, the employee, and the policymakers as well. So what is in the law that protects the employee when they're going through this stuff, and how are we downscaling that to organization to make sure it is part of the HR manual? Yeah, so policymakers also need to be involved in this conversation. For employers, I'd already mentioned those four things: education, the work culture, employee assistance programs, and training and education for the work the work stuff. And number three, for you as an employee, you need to be able to self-manage. You need to do self-care, understand yourself. And there are very many facets. Like there are 7 different types of self-care, and I'll just highlight 5 and let them research the rest.
Do the homework. Okay.
Yeah. So number one is physical self-care. So are you going to the gym? Are you relaxing? Are you are you sleeping enough? Number 2 is mental. Are you challenging your brain? Like, are you reading books? Are you listening to podcasts? Number 3 is emotional. Are you taking time to meditate? Are you taking time to journal? Are you taking time to understand what causes me stress and how can I deal with that? Yeah. Number 4 is social self-care. Are you meeting up with your family? Are you going to meet up with friends? Because sometimes we're social beings, and being in that environment helps you. It just helps you feel at ease. I always feel amazing when I go to shags.
Right.
And number 5 is professional self-care. Sometimes the uncertainty of not knowing what you need to do sometimes causes you anxiety. So are you training yourself? Are you going online, learning and upskilling yourself so that you don't get to a place where you're getting anxiety because of that uncertainty? So I'd say, as an employee, taking care of yourself and looking at what are the triggers and how can I solve them is very, very important. My parting shot would be what this clinical psychologist said is, mental health is a process. It's not a destination. It's not where you're going, but it's how you drive.
Absolutely.
So consistency and just making sure that even when you falter, don't be too hard on yourself. So
I like that. All right, Jen, literally 10 seconds in closing, and understanding how important mental health is in workspaces.
I will say this, that safe and healthy working environment is not just a fundamental right, but it is also a space where you will reduce conflicts and increase productivity.
100%.
And staff retention.
Yes. Hey, look at that. Okay. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming. Jen Waithera, counseling psychologist, and Reynolda Ward, senior HR consultant and career coach. Thank you so much. Very, very insightful conversation this morning. And the whole question about, first of all, just taking care of yourself. Do your part, and then, the rest will actually take care of itself. Whether it is, the trainings, debriefing sessions that we mentioned as well, but it is, collective responsibility just to make sure that, we have a healthy and safe working environment for everybody. So I hope you've learned a lot from today's conversation. Allow us to say goodbye. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and of course, on behalf of everybody who made sure that the show is a success, we wish you a lovely day ahead and a productive week ahead as well. I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place. But for now, stay safe. Goodbye.